Vinny Goodwill, I am feeling good on a Monday. Let me tell you why I'm feeling good on a Monday. Because there's basketball. It's a playoff basketball. I know a lot of hockey people talk about it. There's nothing like playoff hockey. I'll give it to them. I'll give it to them. Great. Playoff hockey is fun. There's no carryover from the regular season. Actually, in hockey, a number 8 seed can get to the final and actually win that thing. Unlike in the NBA. You can get there, you probably can't win it as an 8 seed. But in hockey, 6 seed, 7 seed, 8 seed, you can win the damn thing. But playoff basketball is beautiful, Vinny, especially if you want to close your eyes and go back to the 1990s, because that's when Knicks and Pacers was a thing. Reggie Miller, Patrick Ewing, Dale Davis. Who's the other one? Oh, the big day.
Antonio Davis. Antonio Davis.
Antonio. That's what it was. Antonio Davis. John Starks and Anthony Mason. They had a lot of those cats going back and forth. Knicks, Pacers. And that's what you have tonight. Like, imagine it's the 1990s. You got Tupac on the radio. You got Biggie. You got Montel Jordan, the R&B. I don't know. But that aside, different kinds of teams.
Are you wearing your cross colors? Are you wearing your cross colors? Are you wearing your Guess jeans? You know what I mean? That's super tapered at the bottom. You know what I mean? Like, is that where you're going?
Oh, you can't do that anymore? That's a 90s thing? I didn't know. I just found out. That's a 90s thing? I still do that.
Yeah, it's a 90s thing.
I feel like
I'm sure you do.
The styles are different. Styles on the court are different than they were in the 90s, because Knicks Pacers then was a little bit of a slog. They'd go back. The games would be in the 70s sometimes, in the 80s, and they used to just beat the crap out of each other. I look at this team now. These teams, what a contrast. You see the Pacers, who really are the Pacers, one of the best offensive teams in the NBA in terms of pace, in terms of just shooting threes and just getting into their offense and going. And the Knicks, look, if you've ever watched Tom Thibodeau, whether he's in Minnesota or Chicago or now New York, you've seen it once, you've seen it 100 times. This is kind of what his teams do. How do you see this series playing out?
Styles make fights. And I think you look at the Pacers and the way that they play so fast. They literally just ran the Milwaukee Bucks out of the building in the first round. They literally just said, we're going to play more possessions than you. You guys can't keep up with us, and we're going to beat you. And that's what happened. In this series, it's going to be a different sort of ball game, because the Knicks can slow the game down, right? They can pound the offensive glass, and they can hound Tyrese Halliburton in the way that the Milwaukee Bucks couldn't. They didn't have the personnel. So now you're going to be playing the chess match between Rick Carlisle and Tom Thibodeau. Like, that's going to be the curious thing for me, is which team is going to impose their stylistic will on the other one. Will it be the Knicks and Jaylen Brunson? Like, Jaylen Brunson, I don't know if he's entering into like the pantheon of, small guards who can lead a team to the NBA Finals, but he's coming across some very impressive company with those 40-point games. You know what I mean? Like, he's playing a certain level of postseason basketball that you've seen great players do at this level. So, and I'll add to the fact, remember, Rick Carlisle had Jaylen Brunson as a young player and wasn't playing Jaylen Brunson as a young player and didn't play him at all in a Game 7. It's Rick Carlisle, man. Like, he might wake up on the wrong side of the bed. And part of it was Jaylen Brunson's game hadn't yet fully grown and matured. Dallas had yet to figure out exactly the right player to play next to Luka Doncic. You know what I mean? Like, there was a lot of youth going on there. I don't think it was necessarily anything personal, but Jaylen Brunson can embrace his petty. He can go look across the way and say, hey man, you're the reason that it took me a long time to get my money. I'm going to make you pay. And wow, the one thing I am looking forward to, I'm not going to be there, I'm in Denver, but Madison Square Garden, that place is going to be rocking this week. You know what I mean? You talk about the nostalgia of the 90s, but this is the last time that the Knicks were actually culturally relevant in the NBA, where they had a viable chance to get to the NBA Finals. Like, I didn't think the Knicks were going to make the Eastern Conference Finals. When people were saying that early in the season, I thought they were just buying into New York hype. And then things started happening. Then Miami fell off. Then Milwaukee fell off. Then, you know what I mean? And now you're looking at the New York Knicks one series away from the Eastern Conference Finals. And once you get there, anything can happen.
Yeah, and you're right. You're right about Madison Square Garden. Like, you've been there, I've been there. Been there as a fan, been there covering games. And it is something special about the place. It really is. It's not a new arena. We know that. Right. They still have, like, it's the quirkiest arena in the NBA. If you know, from a coverage standpoint, if your team is there, the way they drive the buses in to the arena and where the buses are parked, you got to kind of walk around this concourse, and it's New York City, so everything is packed in there. You got the post office right over there, and you got Broadway nearby. I mean, you got all this stuff going on in New York City. So it is special. I'll give it that. But I got to say, I mean, you're not a New Yorker. I'm not a New Yorker, so we can kind of make fun of them a little bit. They're pretty self-important for a team that hasn't won a championship in over 50 years.
Like, hey, were you born? Were you born when they won the championship? Were you alive when they last won the championship?
You know what? I mean? I was alive, but I was like that little baby at that birthday party you just went to. I was watching it, but I couldn't say nothing. I didn't have the words. I didn't quite have the words for it. But let me tell you something. Like, 1973, Vinny. 1973 is the last time they won a championship. So New York is awesome, the city. And there's something about a New Yorker that get to the point. It's blunt, it's entertaining. But maybe what a lot of people don't talk about in New York is vulnerability and desperation. They're desperate. I mean, they're desperate to win a championship. And so that desperation, it's not just the energy of the East Coast that's always there. It's the energy plus the desperation of, damn, it's been a long time since we held up that trophy. As a matter of fact, I don't even know if Larry O'Brien was born.
It wasn't. It wasn't even a Larry O'Brien trophy
it wasn't
back
even
then.
A Larry.
Like, look, my parents weren't even in high school when the Knicks last won an NBA championship. You know what I mean? Like, what do we, like, Knicks fans who walk around with their nose in the air, I do think that they are among the most passionate, sports bases. You know what I mean? When you travel on the Acela to Philadelphia and you take over that building, you are pot committed, you know what I mean, to your team. But you are so right that they consider themselves to be so sophisticated. They believe, Michael, you know what's funny? They are closer to being Gary Carter's Washington Bullets, Wizards, whatever we call them nowadays, than they are the Boston Celtics. But they think they're the Celtics. They think they got 17, 18 championships. They think they got all the banners on the walls. You know what I mean?
They got memories. So the Knicks, the Knicks are like, we start off talking about hockey. Believe it or not. Two brothers talking about hockey. That should be our podcast. Two brothers on hockey. Anyway, we started off talking about hockey, but the Knicks are to the NBA what Toronto is to hockey. So the Hockey Hall of Fame, you didn't know this. The Hockey Hall of Fame
is in Toronto.
You didn't know that.
Yeah.
You knew that?
Yeah, I did know that.
Okay, all right.
Yeah, I knew that.
Okay, all right. Don't mean to disrespect you. All right. So Hockey Hall of Fame.
I don't know anything else, but I think I knew that.
That's right. So Toronto is kind of like the epicenter of hockey in Canada. That's the first city. But the Toronto Maple Leafs haven't won a championship since the 60s, even before the Knicks. They haven't won a championship since the 60s, but you go to Toronto, that's when you put your good clothes on. That's when you get cleaned up because, okay, here we are. This is a place where the game matters. And New York is like that. When you think about Kobe going to New York and going off, and LeBron going to New York and going off, the double nickel for Jordan and Madison Square Garden, and he was number 45, all that stuff. Yes, in New York, you want to show out. But as for the team, okay, Well, enough about that. Hey, thank you for watching Brother from Another. If you haven't hit that subscribe button, go ahead and do that now. Don't forget, you can catch us 3 to 4 weekdays on PeacockTV.com and on Sirius XM Channel 85.